Hello board gamers, welcome to Tabletop Tea Time. This is a variety-like show where each month, sometimes we have a topic. I'm always joined by some other creators, and this month we're going to be talking about artwork. What does that mean to us? Is it important? What's the best game that has the best artwork? The artists themselves? We're going to talk all about that, and without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Josh.
Hi, I'm Josh from the YouTube channel Joshyaks, and on the topic of art in games, I was initially thinking about talking about some of the clever ways in which game mechanisms utilize artwork, such as in games like Canvas or Dixit or Codename Pictures, but my brain just kept coming back to picture's pretty. Because the thing is, I am very much into aesthetics when it comes to board games. Things like artwork, graphic design, component design, all that stuff is pretty important to me. I am more likely to buy a mediocre game if it has excellent artwork, and less likely to buy a very good game if it has what I deem to be quite poor artwork. So for whatever reason, that's just something that is important to me. So what I'd like to do instead is to highlight just some of the amazing board game artists that are out there. Obviously, when we talk about artists in board games, we hear a lot of the same names come up over and over again. Vincent Dutrait, Ian O'Toole, Beth Sobel. There are even a couple of people who are combined designers and artists who do the artwork in their own games. People like Ryan Laukat, for example, and Michael Menzel. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the games in my own collection and some of the artists that I appreciate. So I have this game called Oceanos. It's quite a simple and fun little game. The artwork is done by Jeremy Fleury, and it is just so well done. In fact, everything about the game is really well done. The artwork, the design, the whole components of it. And here are some other amazing art that Jeremy has done in other games. He obviously has a style that I really connect with. Another game in my collection is Century Golem Edition. One of the artists in that game and that whole Century series is Justin Chan. And check out this game, Mycelia. This is another game that Justin Chan has been involved with the artwork for. Another one in my collection is Seven Wonders. The artist there is Miguel Coimbra, who's done artwork for some big series of games like Small Worlds, which has just wonderful artwork, and a bunch of the Tiny Epics games. Here are a bunch of other games that he's done art for, and next up I have Super Motherlode in my collection, which I don't love the character artwork. The art is done there by Lena Cossette, but a bunch of her other games are games that I find really striking in terms of their art and visual. But the most represented artist, it appears, in my collection of games is Chris Quilliams. I own, like I mentioned before, Century Golem Edition. I have Camel Up 2nd Edition, Acrotiri, Clash of Cultures, Merchants and Marauders, and Flick 'em Up, all of which Chris Quilliams has been involved with. He's been involved with also some other really big series like the Century series, like I mentioned, Century Golem and the original Century stuff. He's done a bunch of the Azules, which are just gorgeous games. He's been involved with a bunch of the Carcassones, the Pandemics, the Great Western Trails, and here are some others that I found quite beautiful in their artistic presentations. So again, these are just from my own collection, some artists who I have a lot of appreciation for. I'd love artists in general to get more credit. I think what they do is important and really adds a lot to the experience of a board game. Hope you enjoy your holidays, and I'll catch you on the next Tabletop Tea Time. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Will, and with me as always is the panoramic, dynamic one herself,
Sarah.
And we're rolling with two. And today's tea time topic for tabletop is art.
Yes.
So, our opinion on art is a little different than most because we usually look at it first through an accessibility lens.
Yeah.
We acknowledge that there are plenty of games out there where art is the game. For example, Dixit.
Yes.
You can't play the game without the art, so art is functionally part of the game. Mm-hmm. However, we do find that in a lot of cases, art gets in the way of the functionality of the game.
Yeah, when art starts to block like we've used accessibility, like if there's more art and all the text is really small, or like we've seen when they use art as icons, and icons are supposed to be that at a glance type of thing. Artwork is not at a glance, it's complex. It's engaging for a reason, but there's parts where the graphic design should not be artsy. It should look nice, but it should help the user, the people trying to play the game, better to play the game, in which case it needs to be relatively more straightforward than some people make it.
Yeah, and then in other cases, you have art that kind of overlaps actual usable functions of the game where, well, I can't see the icons because the art is now over it, or I don't know what title this thing is because the art's over it, and it's just spilling out all over the place.
Or there's times where you've seen, again, like the art is so prominent that they don't put a name on the card. They're like, oh, well, you can tell what it is. Well, that's not very helpful for those with vision disabilities, where if they want to play the game, they need to be able to see the art. But I mean, it doesn't take much time or room to put something at the top to say, I don't know, this is a teapot, instead of just showing a picture of a teapot, which teapots are probably not that complicated. But if you have severe vision issues, you may not be able to parse an artistic picture of a teapot on a counter with a whole bunch of other things there.
Yes, but we do acknowledge that art does make some games, the game.
Yeah.
For example, Century Golem for you.
Yeah, for me, I completely ignore the written narrative. You are turning crystals into amazing golems that go out and help the world.
That's not what the game says.
No, I am not a trader or seller of crystals, and I will never play Spice Road because it looks so bland and is so generic. I'm like, golems all the way, because that is an interesting story. And I think that's where a lot of people use art, is trying to convey a story or a world or a setting and that type of things. And some people succeed at that better than others. And some people succeed where they weren't even trying, like Century Golem.
So mostly we say it's great provided you use it to support both your narrative and your functionality.
Right. It should never, never make it difficult for someone to actually play the game.
Yes.
I think I might be one of the only people that actually prefers the original Spice Road over Golem Edition. Let me know in the comment section below how wrong I am about that. So, artwork. When I think about artwork, it's often what attracts me to look at the game, to maybe look it up on Board Game Geek. It gets me invested in a way of looking at the game as a potential game to buy, maybe hopefully review, that sort of thing. And it gets the game to the table because it looks nice. And now, separating it from like nicer components, artwork, be it from a box art, if the box looks cool, you at least want to pick it up and look at the back, that sort of thing. But artwork also for me stops while you play for a lot of games. One game that's often, well, trounced for its art is Terraforming Mars. Alright, I get it. Once you actually stop and look at the artwork, it's more that it's not necessarily bad in my opinion, it's more it just doesn't match. There's different styles of art on the cards. One style would have been great, sort of thing. But when I'm actually playing Terraforming Mars, I'm not really looking at the artwork. I'm looking at the tags, the cost, the ability, and I'm playing that card down and looking at the central board in the middle, and then the cards that I'm picking up. Just again, I'm not looking at the artwork, I'm looking at the stats, at that sort of stuff. There are, however, games which are just about art. That could be Dixit or Mysterium, where you're like, in Mysterium you're giving artwork out as clues. But one game had to come to mind when it was artwork, and that's Canvas. Because in Canvas, you are creating the artwork. And in fact, this is one of very few games for me where I forget about the rest of the game and just look at the art. In complete contrast to Terraforming Mars, where I forget the artwork and look at the symbols around it, the cards in Canvas, Well, first of all, they're really nice because they're like transparent cards with the artwork on them, so they layer up to create this artwork. It looks stunning. Well, they've got icons along the bottom that you're supposed to use to score points, but it's really tempting to ignore them and just create a really, really cool image. That is a game that above all others, for me, it's just about making cool art. Because yeah, even if you do it and you win loads of points, often you're always at the end going, look, I made this artwork from the different cards and laying them up in different ways. You've got a window that's looking out and then it's raining and there's someone out in the rain, or there's a ship in the air, or just weird and wonderful stuff that comes together in these artworks in canvas. It's definitely a good one for families because it's easy to play, teach, and it's just fun even if you lose. Because often, at the end of the game, you don't really care who's won and lost. Well, you kind of care. You're like, oh, well done, you won. But I like that person's art that they made a bit better. It's the game that came to me for artwork, so that is Canvas.
Hey everybody, it's Chris and Angie from the Chasing Meeples podcast, and we're here to talk about, well, what are we here to talk about, Angie?
We're here to talk about artwork. Maybe pretty artwork, maybe pretty ugly artwork, maybe you don't care about your artwork.
Artwork.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I'm going to go first because you've got probably a little bit more to say than I do.
Maybe.
I'm going to talk about Dice Throne. Besides the fact that the artwork is awesome looking, do you know what I love about Dice Throne? I love that this is a dice game, and nowhere on this box do you see dice flying out. Flying out. Just because every other dice game has that. That's not why it's my favorite art, but I really enjoy the fact that they didn't do that. They've got a really cool dice that's on fire here. Die that's on fire here. But I love the art on this game. Dice Throne.
I want to talk about a roll and write game called Three Sisters. Three Sisters, I got no problem with the artwork. It's nice. It's not bad. That's not my problem. The game board is supposed to be a rondelle. Now, I don't care if your rondelle's not round. That's not what's important. What's important is where you put your pieces. And if you can't tell where to put your pieces because all the spaces look different, there's so many. Oh, wait. I play solo. So this is how complicated and messy the board is. Now, I figured it out. That wasn't the issue. But the artwork should not get in the way of playing a game. We've got lots of games. There's so many games that put out in a year. Beautiful games, even ugly games, but they're great games. You don't get that many chances. Hey, if I didn't play this game, figure it out, I would have just tossed it aside and played something else. You don't get that many chances, okay? Make it clear. Delineate the spaces. We've got a beautiful game downstairs, Patoku. I couldn't figure out where to place the cards. It had nothing to do. If it takes me an hour to set up the game, fine. But if it takes me an hour to figure out where to put the cards by some river that apparently doesn't exist, don't get me started. Clear artwork, okay? Just make it clear where you're going. Don't let your artwork get in the way of your game.
Well, tell us how you really feel about that. If you enjoy that kind of ranting, maybe some banter, you should check out our podcast, Chasing Meeples. You can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just search for Chasing Meeples. Ollie, thank you for letting us be a part of Tabletop Tea Time. Bye.
Hey everybody, I'm Evan. Pour yourself a mug of tea and I'll show you a game that you have probably never heard of. Today we're going to talk about the game Through the Woods, which is a game from 2021 designed by Masato Usugi. If you know that name, he has done such games as Paper Tales, Welcome to the Dungeon, and he's got a new trick-taking game out called Lunar, which I know a lot of people are liking. And the artist on this one is Shigeru Mizuchi. It's basically a set collection and track movement game for 2 to 6 players. Well, why don't we go down to the table where I'll show you a brief overview, and then I'll show you some of the art, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you why I like this art and where you can find it. The gameplay for Through the Woods is pretty simple. The idea is you take your animal and move them as far as you want along this track, collecting whichever tile that you stop on, which will have certain number of acorns and a flower or a berry used for set collection at the end of the game or in each round. The acorns are then used to buy objective cards at the bear store. When you get there, the first person is allowed to buy objective cards for cheaper. So you don't want to go too fast and not collect any tiles along the way, but you don't want to get there too slow either, because then these are very expensive. And then the person with the most points after 3 rounds is the winner and gets to ride the bear swing. That's basically it. But let's take a closer look at this art. I would like to mention that my copy does have an English translation of all the objective tiles, and this QR code sheet here with the English rules on it. So that's Through the Woods. There are some copies available on Amazon Japan if you want to try to track some down, but I believe you have to search under the Japanese name to find it, not the English name, because it may be a different sort of translated name. There was an American distributor for this game, Big Cat Games, but they've since gone out of business, so I think that's the only place you can actually find it now. The reason I like the art in this game is it just gives me like this warm and cozy type feeling, almost like a children's book that like my grandma would have had like in her cabinet that I would have pulled out and read every day. I don't know, it just gives me like this warm feeling like that. So, and I really enjoy this artist's work. I wish they would do more. I do have one more game in my collection by this artist. Maybe we'll get to that on this show someday. But yeah, that's Through the Woods. Thanks again for having me on this show, and happy tea time, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Well, you've done it again there, Evan. I've definitely never heard of it, and I'm sure many people won't have either. Now, let's go on to a little segment where I pick something that I've watched recently, and I thought, well, let's shout that out, and this is a good platform to do it. Well, the Boxed Meeples have put out a top 10 Christmas list, but with a bit of a twist because it's Christmas games for like kids and children. I really like that. One of the games, I don't want to spoil the whole list, one of the games that's on it that I definitely have enjoyed because I played it at Spiel back in October is Viking Seesaw. It was just a really fun little dexterity game that they talk about in the video. I'd highly recommend going and watching that for some very family fun Christmas ideas. And now for our Spotlight segment. This is where I invite some creators on to talk about their channel and then go through some rapid fire questions. So let's hand over to RollingWithTwo to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Will, and with me as always is Ready Player Blue herself.
Sarah.
And we're Rolling with Two. We have a YouTube channel called Rolling with Two, where we cover reviews of games as well as 2-player perspectives and accessibility on games.
And now for some rapid fire questions. What is your favourite game and what is your favourite mechanism?
My favorite game is Suburbia. I like it for after you build the whole thing out, you actually look at it and go, oh yeah, that's such and such town. But it also reflects my favorite mechanism, which is engine building, because I like putting stuff into a game and seeing what I can get out of a game.
And for me, my favorite game is Century Golem. I absolutely love the narrative of turning crystals into golems that go out and help in the world. I think it's just, very beautiful. The artwork is just really engaging. And it has a little bit of one of my favorite mechanisms, and that's deck building. I absolutely love the idea of all the players starting off with the same hand, or generally the same hand, and then playing the game of upgrading and getting new cards, and just kind of seeing, who can do whatever it is the best by the end. And I just really enjoy that aspect.
Two great choices there, even if Spice Road is better than Golem Edition, in my humble opinion. But what game has the best meeple in it?
The game that has the best meeples is Tiny Epic Quests, because it has modifiable meeples. Does that meeple need a sword? Sure, here it is, and put it in its hand. Does it need a lantern? Sure, here it is, put it in its hand. It's just a very nifty meeple.
I agree.
In a game.
Those are very, very cool, and I like them a lot, but I'm going to have to go with Keep the Heroes Out. They're all super cute, super little chibi, smiley monsters, and I have to say I think my favorite right now would be the pink slimes, but the expansion might change that.
Ooh, which is saying something, because pink isn't your favorite color.
No, pink is not my favorite color, but I love little slimes.
But what would happen if those meeples came to life? They're going to be armed. Either way, what game did you play last?
The last game we played is a very generically named game called Dice Cards.
Thankfully, the gameplay is not that generic and is actually very interesting. There are 50 different mini games that you play in this roll and write, where you're rolling 2 dice and you're picking one number to put on one of your cards. You get 6 cards and you're playing that throughout the game of 50 turns. There's some good points and some bad points, and we do cover that in our review and our Rolling with Two.
Always love a good roll and write, so I might have to give that one a go. Now, what are your hobbies outside of board games?
Another major hobby that we have is Lego. In fact, I write regularly for the Brick Blogger, and just recently built it's almost a 3-foot tall building in the Avengers Tower. Which I wrote a review for and shot a video for. That thing is massive and expensive, so I'm glad I got a review copy of that.
I am too. And one of our other hobbies is video games, and that's actually the main way that we connected when we first started our relationship was video games, and specifically turn-based RPGs. We still play those heavily, although now that I have the Switch, I play a lot of cozy games. I'm really into Wildflowers right now, and Will is discovered
Kingdom of Loathing. It's a browser-based game by Asymmetric. They have other games that are based in the same world of West of Loathing and Shadows over Loathing. But Kingdom of Loathing is a free game you can play, and it's a fantasy RPG with puns and pop culture thrown all in, and it's done using stickman art.
Yeah.
So they know that art isn't their forte, and they don't make any bones about it, but it's a fantastic game, and it's been running for over 20 years now.
That is pretty amazing.
And it has one of the most interesting economies that's fueled by the players and not the game developers.
Yeah. He
it's
tells
amazing.
me about it, and it just blows my mind.
Yes. So check it out. Go Kingdom of Loathing. Make yourself a character. And if you need to join a guild, ISMO. ISMO is where I'm at, so yeah, we accept a whole bunch of new players.
I am also a Lego fan, so I am very, very jealous of the Avengers Tower. It does look pretty awesome. Now, back to your channel. What can people expect to see on it over the next few weeks?
So the next thing you can expect are probably some games that we have on the docket. One is Fliptown.
Yep.
And the other one is Earthbound Rangers. Earthborn Rangers.
Yes.
But they're bound to the earth.
Yep, those are 2 of our unplayed games, of many unplayed games, but those are the ones that I think are going to be first in the list.
Yes. Now, we did do play of Earthborn Rangers, so we're a little ahead on that,
right.
Since it is a big game.
It's a big game. We're going to need to take another, probably Saturday, to get a second play in before we really get a hold of what we think about it.
Yes, but that's what you can expect.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks very much to RollingWithTwo for being the Spotlight creator this month. It's great to hear a little bit more about the different creators, and I hope you feel the same as well. I'll be putting their link to their YouTube channel in the description box down below, alongside all of the creators that have joined me on today's show. And, well, that wraps us all up, so have a great holidays, time of year, and until next time, have a great month gaming.